Today we will be talking about Karl Marx and communism. First, we're going to talk about this guy named Karl Marx. He was a German, and he was born into a middle-class family that was kind of wealthy, so he came from money. But he saw a lot of the working conditions in factories. He helped manage some factories, and so he saw how the workers were treated and how the rich people treated them, like the managers and stuff like that. And so he grows up and he sees all this, and eventually, after he gets out of school, he starts working on writing a lot of books. And his most famous book is called the Communist Manifesto. Here is a picture of Karl Marx. Next, Friedrich Engels. This guy was also a German, and he was also born into a middle-class family. And he actually worked as a manager in a cotton factory. His father was a very wealthy factory owner, and so his father forced his son to work as a manager in one of his factories. And as he worked as a manager, he saw how the working conditions in the factories were really bad, and also how the workers were being mistreated by other managers or the wealthier or upper class people. He too was appalled, much like Karl Marx. He follows the same route as Marx, and he eventually helps Karl Marx to write his most famous book, the Communist Manifesto. Here's a picture of Friedrich Engels. Now, here is the Communist Manifesto. It would have looked something like this. Both Marx and Engels are right on the cover. This book basically talks about communism and what it is and how it affects societies. Now, the idea of communism has always been around. It's been around for centuries, ever since ancient civilizations. It's just that these two were able to put a name on it and put it in a book and make some money off of it. So let's talk about what is communism. Well, in communism, the state controls the means of production. So what the heck does that mean? Well, the state is the government. And so the government controls every aspect of production. And production means like anything that's made, whether it's the food at the farms, the clothes in the factory, whatever. The government is going to control all that production. How much food is going to be made, how many shirts are going to be made, who's going to make it, where, stuff like that. They determine all that. The difference between communism and a capitalist society, which the United States is that in the United States, individuals determine the means of production. So that means anybody can start up their own business and sell shirts or food or whatever. That's the big difference between communism and capitalism. But communism also states that blue-collar workers, the lower class, the factory workers and the farmers, they're the ones who should have all the power. They're the ones who should rule society. The lower classes are the ones that should have control. Because in many societies, and even our own, a lot of the rich people have the money and the power. And also, last point for communism is that in communism, there are no divisions based on class, race, gender, religion, all sorts of things. Everyone is supposed to be equal. Everyone's supposed to get equal amounts of food, clothing, money, so on and so forth. No one is unequal. No such thing as a division. And here at the bottom, we have this. This is the hammer and the sickle. You've probably seen this before. Russia was the first communist country, and this was their symbol for communism. The hammer, right here, symbolizes the workers in the factories, while the sickle here symbolizes the farmers in the fields. They come together and they create a society ruled by the lower class, or another fancy word for them is the proletariat. This is it for the screencast on Karl Marx and communism.